Chosen one. Heaven has paused everything around you right now. This moment is not random, it is orchestrated. The Spirit of the living God has reached into your timeline to whisper one truth that will shift everything. You are not forgotten. Every restless thought, every silent worry, every moment you stared into the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if God still remembers your name. He has seen them all. And today, He interrupts your scrolling, your rushing, your noise, to tell you, stop worrying. I have a perfect plan for you. You feel it, don't you, that stirring inside your chest? That quiet heat of recognition, like heaven is leaning close. You've been walking through uncertainty, praying for a sign that you are not just drifting through chaos. And here it is. This is the sign. The still, sacred confirmation that the same God who spoke galaxies into motion has not lost sight of you. He is not late. He is deliberate. He is intentional. Listen carefully. Chosen one. God doesn't need your panic to perform His plan. He only needs your posture of trust. Every time you try to calculate your future or worry about how it will unfold, heaven waits. Worry delays what faith could accelerate. Fear tells you that control is safety. But faith tells you that surrender is power. The moment you release control, the Creator begins to reveal the masterpiece He's been crafting behind the scenes. There are no coincidences here. The path you are walking has been written in divine ink before you ever took your first breath. The people who left, the doors that closed, the seasons that stretched longer than you expected, all of it was divine choreography. God has been positioning you for the unveiling of His perfect plan. And though you cannot yet see the full picture, heaven has already declared the ending. You will not fail. You are not waiting on God. God is preparing the stage for your arrival. The silence you hear is not absence, it's alignment. He is arranging the right people, the right timing, the right opportunities. You worry because you cannot see it. But faith is trusting the invisible hand that guides you through visible storms. The enemy has tried to convince you that you've missed your moment, that you've wasted too much time, that you are too behind to catch up. But heaven laughs at that lie. You cannot miss what God has reserved for you. What is meant for you has your name carved into it in light. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be delayed. It cannot be erased. Beloved, stop trying to fix what only God can redeem. Your job is not to force outcomes, it's to stay faithful. Your assignment is to breathe, to trust, to keep your heart aligned even when your eyes cannot trace the plan. Because you are not walking through chaos, you are walking through choreography. Every step, every pause, every detour is the rhythm of heaven leading you toward the promise. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 34, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." You see, even the waiting is holy. You are not stuck, you are strengthening. You are not behind, you are being built. The anxiety you've been fighting is not a sign of weakness, it's evidence of transformation. You are outgrowing fear, outgrowing limitation, outgrowing the need to see every detail before believing. This is your confirmation. God is not finished with you. The plan is not falling apart, it is falling into place. You will understand later what confuses you now. You will thank God for what He withheld just as much as for what He released. You will one day see that worry was the thief of your peace, not the protector of your destiny. So, breathe. Be still. Heaven has spoken. You are chosen. The plan is perfect, even when the path isn't clear. And now, if this message has reached your spirit, if your heart is burning because you know heaven is speaking directly to you, pause for just one act of faith. Tap the like button. Share this message so another chosen one may hear the same truth. And comment below 777 as a prophetic sign that you trust God's perfect timing. And don't forget to subscribe, because what comes next will build you, strengthen you, and remind you of who you truly are, a child of divine purpose walking inside a flawless plan. You are not lost. You are led. You are not abandoned. You are becoming. Heaven has spoken, and its word never returns void. Chosen one, you were never meant to fear. Fear was never your inheritance, never your divine DNA. Heaven did not breathe life into you so that you could spend your days trembling at shadows that have no true power. Fear entered the world through distortion, through lies whispered into human hearts by voices that wanted to steal peace. But from the beginning, you were designed to live in boldness, in authority, in unshakable faith. You have spent too long thinking fear is part of who you are. But it is not you. It is a parasite feeding off your uncertainty. It grows in silence, in the space between what you see and what you hope for. Yet, even now, the Spirit of God is standing before you, extending His hand, saying, "Come out of that cave of anxiety. You were never meant to hide here." The light within you terrifies darkness itself. Fear has always been the enemy's counterfeit for reverence. The devil twists what belongs to God, turning awe into anxiety, turning reverence into panic. But when you are filled with the Spirit, you realize that what the enemy calls fear, heaven calls faith under pressure. The fear that once paralyzed you becomes the very place where God demonstrates His strength. Every trembling moment is an altar where heaven proves you are not alone. You remember those nights when worry sat heavy on your chest, when you rehearsed every possible disaster, when your mind could not rest. And yet, you are still here. You survived the fears that swore they would destroy you. The truth is, they never had the authority they pretended to. Fear's voice is loud, but its power is hollow. It shouts, but it cannot strike. The Lord never gave you that spirit. You were given power. You were given love. You were given a sound mind. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Every time you remember this truth, something inside you begins to rise. Power, that is what you carry. Love, that is what governs your strength. A sound mind, that is what keeps you anchored when storms try to shake your peace. Fear wants to isolate you, but faith brings you into communion with the Almighty. You cannot carry divine purpose while holding on to demonic panic. They cannot coexist in the same space. One must go. So now, heaven asks, which voice will you feed? The one that says, what if everything goes wrong? Or the one that says, even if it does, I will still be with you. Fear is loud when faith is quiet. But when faith rises, fear has no place left to hide. You are not a slave to those inner storms. You are the calm that commands them to be still. Remember the moments when you thought you were breaking. That was not the sound of you shattering. It was the sound of fear losing its grip. God was peeling away the layers that kept you from walking in your authority. You cannot step into destiny while clinging to dread. The bridge between anxiety and peace is trust. And trust is not blind, it's prophetic. It sees beyond circumstances and recognizes God's fingerprints on everything. Beloved, chosen one. The enemy fears your peace more than your prayer, because when you are at peace, you hear clearly. When your spirit is calm, you move in precision. Fear clouds discernment, peace sharpens it. That is why the battle for your mind has been so fierce. You are dangerous when you are calm. You are unstoppable when you rest in God. You were born to operate in faith like a current that cannot be reversed. The enemy sends fear not to stop you but to distract you, to make you doubt the voice that has already declared victory. But heaven is speaking again, louder than your anxiety, saying, "You have already overcome." Fear's greatest illusion is that it has control. Yet every time you choose to trust, every time you breathe instead of panic, you are declaring war against the darkness that tried to silence you. You must begin to talk differently, to think differently, to live differently. When fear whispers, "What if you fail?" you answer, "Even if I fall, my God will lift me." When fear says, "You can't handle this," you respond, "I can do all things through Christ." You begin to rewrite the narrative that fear tried to hand you. The truth, chosen one, is that faith was woven into your spirit before fear ever existed. It is your native language, your original design. Fear is foreign to you. It does not belong in your system. When you walk in your true identity, fear dissolves like mist under sunlight. Heaven did not send you to survive in fear. You were sent to demonstrate peace in chaos, courage in darkness, stillness in the storm. And so, stand tall, lift your head, let your heart rest. The same God who commands the wind and waves commands your circumstances too. You were never meant to fear, you were meant to trust, to rise, to walk boldly into the unknown, knowing that even there, God has already prepared victory. Chosen one. Do you understand now that every delay is divine timing? You have looked at your life and thought, "I'm behind. Everyone else is moving faster. Why do my answers take so long?" But heaven smiles. Because you are comparing clocks when God works by seasons. You have been measuring minutes, while God has been shaping moments. Every delay has been a divine pause, a sacred intermission before your reveal. You see, waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. You haven't been forgotten, you've been fortified. God delays not to deny, but to design. The waiting room of heaven is where your foundation is built, where your motives are purified, where your character catches up to your calling. If the promise had come too soon, it would have crushed you. But God, in His mercy, slowed the process so your roots could go deep enough to hold the weight of your destiny. The delay you call disappointment is heaven's way of protecting your alignment. You wanted the door to open last year, but if it had, you would have walked through it unready. God will never open a door that could destroy the version of you He's building. So when you say, "God, why not yet?" He answers, "Because I love you too much to release what would overwhelm you." Look closely at your journey. The moments of stillness were not wasted. They were sacred rehearsals. Every silent season taught you something you could not learn in motion: how to discern, how to listen, how to rest when nothing made sense. You learned the rhythm of heaven in the pauses. That rhythm is trust. It is written in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. You see, timing is not about the clock, it's about the Creator. When God orchestrates timing, He aligns heaven and earth in your favor. You think the wait is long, but heaven sees the whole picture. You're not waiting on breakthrough. Breakthrough is waiting on you to be ready. You're not waiting on the miracle is waiting on your maturity. There is a rhythm to divine timing, a heartbeat that can't be rushed. Sometimes God hides you on purpose, not because you're unworthy, but because you're valuable. Rare things are not found everywhere. Rare anointings are not released carelessly. You are being refined in private, so that when you step into public purpose, there will be no doubt that heaven sent you. Do not despise the detours. They are not distractions, they are directions. The roads that seemed to lead nowhere were simply redirections toward destiny. Every time you cried, "God, I thought I heard you right," heaven whispered, "You did, but I needed to protect the promise from premature exposure." Beloved, what you perceive as delay is divine discipline, the gentle hands of a father shaping a vessel that can hold glory. You may think God is silent, but silence is His language of trust. He only grows quiet when He knows you can walk by faith. You must learn to see divine timing as divine love. Every waiting season is proof that heaven has not forgotten you. In fact, the longer the wait, the greater the unveiling. Think about Joseph, hidden in prison while destiny was still brewing. Think about David, tending sheep while anointing oil was still fresh on his head. The delay didn't disqualify them, it confirmed their calling. The same is true for you. You are not behind schedule. You are right on heaven's clock. You are moving exactly at the pace grace has set for you. God is not late, He is precise. The doors that will open next are not random, they are rehearsed by eternity. Every connection, every opportunity, every miracle is being aligned with flawless precision. Do not rush what heaven is perfecting. Every day you wait in faith. The future shifts closer. The Lord is tying invisible threads together, people you haven't met, situations you can't predict, moments that will collide in divine synchronicity. You will look back soon and say, "Now I understand why it had to happen this way." So, beloved chosen one, do not grow weary. Keep your spirit anchored in trust. The plan has not been postponed, it is progressing. Heaven's timing will not disappoint you. Now, as a prophetic act of alignment, write in the comments, "I trust His timing." Let this not just be words, but a declaration. Because when you speak trust into the atmosphere, worry begins to crumble. Your comment becomes your covenant, your faith written in public for heaven to see. You're not typing letters, you're releasing agreement into the unseen. The God who began this good work in you will complete it exactly on time. Not early, not late, but perfect. Your part is to stay still. Stay believing. Stay faithful. The delay is not denial, it is design. Heaven is working behind the curtain. The pieces are aligning. And soon, very soon, you will see that divine timing was never your enemy. It was your greatest protection. Chosen one. The wilderness is not a place of punishment, it is a place of preparation. It is the silent classroom where heaven teaches its deepest lessons. When you found yourself surrounded by emptiness, by the unfamiliar, by the absence of the things that once gave you comfort, you thought you had been abandoned. But in truth, you had been invited into a divine training ground. The wilderness is where noise fades, and only truth remains. It strips away distractions and forces you to listen. You cannot hear the whisper of God when the world is loud, so He leads you away. Not to isolate you, but to attune your spirit to His frequency. There, among the barrenness, you begin to hear differently. You begin to see differently. You begin to understand that silence is not absence, it is intimacy in disguise. You may have cried, "God, where are you?" But heaven never left. God was there in the stillness, teaching you endurance, trust, and resilience. He was hiding you from people who could not walk with you into the next season. He was teaching you to depend on Him when all other support systems vanished. What felt like loss was actually refinement. Every chosen one goes through the wilderness. Moses found his calling there. Elijah heard the still, small voice there. Even Jesus was led into the wilderness before He began His ministry. Why? Because power that has not been proven in solitude cannot stand in public. The wilderness tests what comfort conceals. It reveals your heart and purifies your motives. The wilderness exposes weakness so that it can be healed. You cannot carry pride, fear, or doubt into promise. So, God allows the wilderness to shake loose everything that cannot survive elevation. What feels like delay is actually detox. You are being purified of old patterns, old fears, old dependencies. Heaven cannot pour new wine into an old wineskin. Therefore, the wilderness is heaven's surgery table, removing everything that would contaminate what is coming next. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 7, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him." This is the blessing of the wilderness. You learn to trust what you cannot trace. You learn to walk without visible evidence. You learn to worship when nothing around you feels worthy of praise. The wilderness teaches you to believe that God's presence is not dependent on your comfort. It teaches you that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the awareness of divine presence within it. You remember the ache of those lonely nights, the unanswered prayers, the days when your strength felt like sand slipping through your fingers. Yet, here you stand. The wilderness did not break you, it built you. It burned away the fragile parts of your faith and left behind something unshakable. You discovered that even in desolation, God's voice echoes. Even when the path disappears, His light still finds you. Chosen one. The wilderness is sacred because it is honest. It confronts every false reliance. It forces you to see where your heart truly leans. It removes applause so you can rediscover purpose. You are not being punished. You are being purified. Heaven trusts you enough to take you through the hard way, because only those who have walked through fire can carry fire. You may have thought God was silent, but He was speaking through circumstances. The loss was His voice. The closed door was His protection. The long night was His classroom. Every unanswered prayer was teaching you to pray with purity, not panic. The wilderness is where you stop begging and start believing. And when you emerge from it, you no longer seek validation from people. You no longer chase signs to feel secure. You no longer depend on outcomes to feel loved. You walk out of that barren place knowing that even if everything else fades, God remains. That revelation is what transforms you. So, lift your head, chosen one. Stop despising the process that is producing power within you. You are being refined like gold, shaped like clay, strengthened like steel. Every tear you shed, there was holy water. Every step you took in uncertainty was faith in motion. The wilderness didn't diminish you, it defined you. Soon, what was once a place of testing will become your testimony. You will look back and say, "That desert was the birthplace of my destiny." You will understand why God led you there, why He stripped away comfort, why He allowed certain people to walk away. Because the version of you that will walk into the promise could only be born in the wild. The wilderness has ended for many, but for you, it has transformed into wisdom. You now carry a strength that cannot be shaken, a peace that cannot be stolen, and a faith that cannot be faked. And as heaven watches, it smiles because you made it through what was designed to prepare you, not destroy you. The wilderness did its job. Now you are ready for what's next. Chosen one, the weight you carry has purpose. Every sleepless night, every silent battle, every burden you've held without anyone noticing, none of it is wasted. Heaven has been using that weight to shape you, not crush you. You have been carrying something sacred, even when it felt like sorrow. What others call struggle, Heaven calls stewardship. The pain you've carried is not punishment, it's preparation for the power you're about to walk in. You've wondered, why me? God, why do I always feel like I have to be the strong one? Why does it seem like my journey is heavier than everyone else's? The answer is simple, though not easy, because you are chosen to carry more. You were never built for ordinary battles. You carry an anointing that requires endurance, and endurance cannot be forged in comfort. The Lord sees you every sigh, every silent tear, every time you kept going when no one thanked you. Heaven has been watching you lift weight after weight, heartbreak after heartbreak, and yet you have not collapsed. You have been stretched, yes, but not destroyed. God trusted you with pressure because He knew you wouldn't break. He knew the oil would flow only when the olive was pressed. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 55, verse 22, "Cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken." The weight was never meant to be carried alone. It was meant to draw you closer to the one who carries all things. God never intended for you to bear it by yourself. He allowed the heaviness so that you would learn the rhythm of surrender, to lay down what was never yours to hold indefinitely. Every burden you bring before Him becomes a seed. You lay it down, and in exchange, He gives you strength, clarity, and peace. That's why the strongest people are often the most surrendered. You were never meant to prove your worth through endurance. You were meant to reveal God's strength through your obedience. You must understand your weight is not random. The spiritual heaviness, the pressure, the fatigue, it is divine resistance training. Just as muscles grow under tension, so your faith grows under trials. The pressure is not punishment, it's promotion in disguise. God is fortifying you, increasing your spiritual capacity, preparing you to carry the blessings that others would collapse under. And here is the secret: what feels heavy now will one day become your testimony. You will speak of this season with power, saying, "That was the moment God taught me to trust deeper. The things that make you weep today will make you wise tomorrow. Every tear has meaning. Every ache has instruction. Nothing is wasted when placed in divine hands. So breathe. Chosen one. You don't have to pretend to be strong all the time. Even Jesus, when carrying the cross, fell beneath its weight, and someone was sent to help him carry it. You are not less spiritual because you feel tired. You are human, chosen by heaven to walk through divine transformation. Let the tears fall. Let the burden become prayer. The breaking you feel is not your end, it's your becoming. If this message is touching something deep within you, it's not coincidence. It's heaven confirming that your pain has purpose. And right now, as you read these words, take a gentle moment to pause. Tap the like button, not for vanity, but as an act of agreement that you believe your pain will produce glory. Share this message with someone who might be silently carrying more than they can say, because sometimes one word of light can change another soul's night. And if you haven't already, subscribe not for numbers, but because this space has become a well of reminders, a place where heaven speaks through words like these to strengthen the chosen ones who feel unseen. By staying connected, you're not just following a voice, you're joining a movement of faith, resilience, and divine restoration. The weight you carry is holy. The tears you cry are sacred. And soon, what felt unbearable will become undeniable evidence of God's faithfulness. You are not collapsing, you are being constructed. Heaven is building something through your endurance that will outlast every storm. So stand a little taller today. Whisper to your soul, this burden has a purpose, because it does. You are not cursed for carrying much, you are trusted with much. The pressure will turn to power, and the heaviness will give birth to healing. God is not finished with you yet. Chosen one, keep walking, keep believing. The weight will soon reveal the wings. Chosen one, stop comparing. Start trusting. You have looked left and right so many times that you've forgotten to look up. You've been scrolling through other people's lives, measuring your worth by timelines that were never meant to match yours. But heaven is saying, my child, your story is sacred. Do not desecrate it with comparison. You are not behind. You are not slow. You are moving at the exact pace grace designed for you. Comparison is the silent thief of destiny. It disguises itself as motivation, but beneath it lies envy, fear, and discontent. You see someone else's highlight and forget that every promise has its process. You look at another's harvest and ignore their hidden years of sowing. What you call success in others, God calls timing, and that same timing is working in your favor too. You must remember, purpose is not a race, it's a revelation. When you compare, you declare that God made a mistake in designing your journey, but He makes no mistakes. Every chapter of your life has been written by a hand that does not tremble. Heaven's ink is flawless, and your page will turn right on time. Stop asking why their doors open before yours. Some doors open sooner because they lead to smaller rooms. Yours takes longer because it leads to something greater. God is not delaying you. He is preparing you for dimensions that require deeper roots. You are a masterpiece in progress, not a copy in competition. Heaven didn't design you to fit into anyone else's mold. You are the original blueprint of divine creativity. Every gift, every struggle, every victory, even every delay, is uniquely woven into your calling. The moment you stop comparing, peace floods back in. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy. Chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. You see, comparison often grows in fear, fear of being forgotten, fear of being unseen, fear that your moment will never come. But you serve a God who cannot forget what He created. You are not a spare part in His plan. You are the center of a divine mission. Every time you compare yourself to another, you shrink the revelation of who you truly are. Look around you. The world rewards appearance, speed, and applause. But heaven rewards faith, consistency, and surrender. You have been doing holy work in hidden places. While no one was clapping, heaven was documenting every act of faith, every quiet prayer, every obedient choice. God has seen it all, and your private obedience will lead to public favor. So, release yourself from the weight of comparison. The one who seems ahead is not your rival. They are proof that God is still working miracles. If He did it for them, He will surely do it for you. Stop using others as a measuring stick when God has already measured you with grace. Chosen one, hear this. Your journey is not late, it is layered. The very places that seemed like detours are actually divine designs. The years you thought were wasted are being redeemed even now. Heaven's timeline is not linear, it's eternal. And when the moment comes, your rise will not just be sudden, it will be undeniable. Trust the God who knows what He's doing. You do not need to see the entire staircase to take the next step. Your role is obedience. His role is outcome. Every time you compare, you lose focus on your lane. But when you trust, you accelerate. Peace is faster than panic. Trust moves you farther than competition ever could. And so, today, let this message be your realignment. You are free to celebrate others without feeling smaller. You are free to wait without feeling forgotten. You are free to walk slowly, knowing heaven is never late. Now, if this word has stirred something deep within you, if you feel heaven whispering that your pace is perfect, comment below the number 555. That number is your prophetic agreement, a symbol of grace multiplied, a declaration that you are stepping out of comparison and into complete trust. When you type it, do it as a holy act of faith. You're not just leaving a number, you're signing your name to heaven's timeline, saying, God, I trust your plan. Let that number be your mark, your reminder that divine timing cannot be rushed, and your destiny cannot be duplicated. Others may run ahead, but you, chosen one, are walking in divine rhythm. The waiting is not wasted. The difference is not delay. The pace is not punishment. It's purpose in motion. You are exactly where you are meant to be, walking hand in hand with the one who never leaves, never forgets, and never fails. Chosen one. Peace is not a weakness, it is a weapon. You have been taught to think that strength means fighting, arguing, proving your worth, or defending your truth. But heaven sees things differently. The most powerful warriors are not those who shout the loudest. They are those who remain still when storms rage around them. Peace is not passivity, it is mastery. It is the posture of someone who knows God fights for them. The enemy despises your peace. He will use chaos to shake it. fear to fracture it, noise to drown it. Because peace is your power source, it's the evidence that your faith is intact. If the devil can't take your calling, he will try to take your calm. That's why attacks often intensify right after you decide to trust God. Hell always tests the heart that has chosen rest. But peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of God within it. When you rest in His presence, no storm can truly touch you. You begin to see differently, to respond differently. You no longer move in panic, you move in precision. Heaven gives you clarity that confusion cannot corrupt. You have felt this before, the swirl of anxiety trying to convince you that you must fix everything. Fix everyone. Fix yourself. But peace whispers, be still. You are not the one holding the universe together. When you surrender control, peace floods in like a river, washing away fear, frustration, and fatigue. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 19, "The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights." This is what divine peace does. It steadies your footing even on uncertain ground. It gives you balance when life tilts unexpectedly. It teaches you to walk through valleys as if they were mountains because you know who walks beside you. Peace is not denial of reality, it is confidence in divine reality. The world glorifies noise, but heaven operates in stillness. God whispers because He dwells in peace, not panic. When your soul is quiet, you hear Him more clearly. That's why stillness is warfare. To remain calm when everything demands, your reaction is not weakness, it's authority. You are declaring, I will not move unless heaven moves. Peace is a decision before it becomes a feeling. It is a discipline before it becomes a delight. You must choose it daily, sometimes hourly, especially when everything seems to be falling apart. You must remind yourself, the same God who parted seas can part my fear. The same God who calmed storms can calm my mind. When you walk in peace, you carry heaven's atmosphere with you. Rooms shift when you enter because your presence disrupts chaos. People feel safe around you because your spirit radiates stability. That is not arrogance, it's anointing. You have cultivated what few understand, holy composure. Remember how Jesus slept through the storm. That was not indifference, it was authority in rest. The disciples panicked, shouting, "Teacher, don't you care?" But Jesus already knew when peace stands in the boat. The waves have limits. You carry that same authority. Chosen one, the peace within you is greater than the chaos around you. This is why the Spirit keeps whispering, protect your peace like treasure. Don't give everyone access to your calm. Not every argument deserves your answer. Not every comment deserves your energy. You cannot walk in divine alignment if you keep entertaining earthly noise. Peace is your strategy. It allows you to hear instructions clearly when others are confused. It gives you the patience to move when God says move, and the wisdom to wait when God says wait. You are not missing out by resting, you are maturing by trusting. In every battle, the greatest weapon is the one the enemy doesn't expect. He expects you to panic, but instead, you worship. He expects you to retaliate, but instead, you remain silent. He expects you to run, but instead, you stand still, anchored in peace that surpasses understanding. That's when heaven moves on your behalf. Chosen one, peace will lead you where panic never could. Peace opens doors that force could never unlock. Peace invites revelation that hurry could never hear. This is your reminder: you do not have to fight for what God has already promised. You only have to rest in the one who never loses. So today, breathe deeply. Let calm become your armor. Let stillness become your song. The world will call it weakness, but heaven calls it wisdom. When others rush, you will remain rooted. When others doubt, you will discern. When others fear, you will flourish. Because peace is not a passive state, it is a divine stance. Hold your peace. Chosen one, you are not losing ground, you are gaining authority. Heaven's armies move silently. And so do you. Chosen one, you are surrounded by invisible help. You have never walked alone, though sometimes it felt like the night was too long, the burden too heavy, and the silence too thick. Heaven has assigned guardians to your path, messengers of light who move at the sound of divine command. You cannot see them with your physical eyes, but the unseen realm moves constantly on your behalf. Every step you take in faith is accompanied by armies of angels you didn't even know were there. If your eyes could open for just 1 second into the spiritual dimension, you would never doubt again. You would see how close heaven stands beside you. When you prayed and thought no one heard, angels were dispatched. When you almost lost your way, something unseen pulled you back. When you should have fallen, hands you couldn't see steadied your spirit. You have been preserved by a presence that never sleeps. The prophet Elisha once prayed for his servant's eyes to open so he could see that the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire. The servant feared what surrounded them, but heaven had already surrounded the enemy. The same truth applies to you. What seems to be against you is already outnumbered by what fights for you. The unseen world favors you. The odds are never against the chosen one. You have mistaken isolation for abandonment, but it was actually insulation. Heaven had to pull you away to protect you. You thought you were fighting alone, but divine reinforcements were already in place. Every coincidence that saved you was not luck, it was intervention. Every narrow escape, every unexpected provision, every moment of clarity that came right before a wrong decision, those were angels executing divine strategy. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. This is the mystery of divine protection. You think your strength keeps you standing, but heaven knows it's grace holding you upright. You've been carried through situations that would have buried others. You've been preserved through storms that should have stripped your faith away. And still, you stand, not because you were lucky, but because you were surrounded. Every chosen one walks with a spiritual escort. You are not traveling through life randomly. Heaven tracks your every move. Even your detours are mapped in mercy. You are never too far for heaven's reach. When you walked into danger unknowingly, angels shielded you. When you cried yourself to sleep, heaven stood guard around your room. When you thought you were losing everything, divine hands were catching what you dropped. The unseen world is more real than what you can touch. It does not sleep when you do. It does not forget when you falter. The spiritual covering over your life is constant. You have been surrounded by intercession, watched over by grace, and sustained by mercy. Do not let your feelings deceive you. Just because you cannot sense God does not mean He is absent. Sometimes His protection feels like nothing happening because He prevented what would have happened. There are battles you'll never know about because heaven already won them in silence. Think about it, the accident that didn't happen, the disease that disappeared, the person who suddenly left your life right before betrayal struck. Those were not coincidences. Those were divine reroutes. Angels move quietly but effectively, ensuring that your path stays aligned with destiny. You are part of a larger orchestration, and heaven's hand never loses tempo. When you take a step in obedience, angels prepare the next. When you speak faith, they carry your words like torches into dark places. When you worship, heaven's army surrounds your worship like a shield. That is why praise feels powerful. It's not just music, it's movement in the unseen. Chosen one, you do not need to see to believe. Faith is the language of the invisible. You are not defenseless, you are divinely covered. You are not unseen, you are surrounded. The enemy trembles at your stillness, because stillness signals that you know help has already arrived. The next time fear tries to whisper, you're alone. Smile, and remember, heaven never leaves its chosen unguarded. Even in your lowest moments, you were wrapped in light. Even in confusion, you were protected by order. You are never walking through darkness alone. You are escorted by radiance that darkness cannot touch. So, rest your heart. You are held by hands unseen, covered by promises unbreakable, and strengthened by forces unstoppable. The battle is not yours, and it never has been. You only need to stay still enough to remember that the victory is already secured. You are surrounded, chosen one, utterly, eternally, completely surrounded, chosen one. Your tears are prophetic seeds. Every drop that has fallen from your eyes was never wasted. It was recorded in heaven's books, stored in sacred jars of remembrance. You thought you were crying because of pain, but you were actually sowing in the Spirit. You didn't know it then, but each tear was watering the soil of your destiny. You see, God never overlooks a broken heart. When your soul ached, heaven leaned closer. When you wept in silence, angels gathered around you. When you whispered prayers through sobs, the sound reached the throne room. You thought your tears meant weakness, but they meant warfare. You were interceding even when you didn't know it. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 56, verse 8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected my tears and recorded each one. What a mystery of mercy that the God of the universe counts every tear of his chosen. Nothing escapes his awareness. The tears that fell in secret were never ignored. They were ingredients of transformation. Every season of weeping has been producing something within you that joy alone could never create. You thought your tears were a sign of defeat, but heaven saw them as evidence of faith. Because tears mean you still care. Tears mean you still believe. Tears mean your heart hasn't hardened in the face of disappointment. Heaven honors that tenderness. The soft heart you've carried, though often misunderstood, is the soil where miracles will bloom. The pain you've endured has not been in vain. God has been turning anguish into anointing, sorrow into strength. The tears that once blurred your vision are now cleansing your sight. You are learning to see life through lenses washed by surrender. Every tear has been rewriting your perspective, purifying your motives, and aligning your spirit with heaven's heart. Chosen one, never be ashamed of your tears. The world calls them weakness, but heaven calls them worship. When words fail, tears speak a language angels understand. They say, I still trust you, even when it hurts. They say, I don't see the way forward, but I know you do. Every tear that falls in faith becomes a seed that heaven waters with promise. You may not see the harvest yet, but it's growing. Some of your greatest blessings are germinating beneath the soil of your sorrow. Seeds don't grow in sunlight alone, they need darkness. And so did you. The nights that broke you are the same nights that birthed something unshakable inside you. Don't rush to dry every tear. Let them fall. Let them cleanse the residue of fear and doubt. Let them soften the ground of your soul. Because when joy comes, it will not replace your tears, it will redeem them. The laughter that's coming will echo through the same spaces where you once cried. The very pain that threatened to destroy you will become the platform for your praise. Sometimes, chosen one, the tears you cry are not for you, they are for the generations after you. Your pain becomes their blueprint for perseverance. Your healing becomes their hope. You are breaking patterns through every tear that falls. You are rewriting bloodlines. You are restoring faith in hearts that forgot God was near. That's why the battle has felt so personal, because your obedience carries generational weight. And so, though it hurts, keep weeping with purpose. Heaven counts it all joy. One day, you'll see that every tear was a down payment for the joy that's coming. You will stand in fields of answered prayers and realize that your tears watered every blessing now standing tall before you. When you cried, heaven didn't turn away, it multiplied grace. Every drop became a prayer. Every sob became a song in the spirit. The moment you said, God, I can't take this anymore, he whispered, then let me carry it. You never wept alone. So now, chosen one, take a deep breath. You don't need to be ashamed of your softness. Your tears are holy. Your compassion is sacred. And your heart, though bruised, is beautiful in the eyes of God. And, as an act of faith, type these words in the comments, I still believe. Because even after the tears, even after the heartbreak, even after the silence, you still do. Let heaven see it. Let darkness tremble at it. When you write it, it's not just a comment, it's a declaration that sorrow did not steal your song. It's a testimony that though you cried, you never quit. Your tears have power. Chosen one, they are prophetic seeds, and the harvest is already breaking through the soil. Soon, joy will come running to meet you. Chosen one, obedience unlocks the next door. Every time you choose to obey, even when you don't understand, heaven opens something that disobedience would have kept sealed. You have prayed for miracles, for breakthrough, for clarity, but often the key is already in your hand. That key is obedience. It is not glamorous, not loud, not celebrated by the world, but in the eyes of heaven, it is everything. Obedience is the sound of trust. It is your silent way of saying, God, even if I don't see the full picture, I still choose you. It's the bridge between promise and manifestation. You can't pray for divine movement while resisting divine instruction. The door will not respond to tears alone. It responds to action aligned with heaven's command. You have heard God whisper before, maybe not audibly, but through conviction, through confirmation, through peace that passes understanding. You knew what he was asking, but fear, pride, or uncertainty made you hesitate. And still, he was patient. Still, he waited. Because obedience is not just about rules, it's about relationship. The Father doesn't demand it, he invites it. Because obedience draws you deeper into his heart. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 6, verse 16, still echo today. Don't you know you become slaves to the one you obey, sin to death, or obedience to righteousness? That verse doesn't exist to condemn, it exists to liberate. It reminds you that obedience aligns you with the flow of divine righteousness. Every yes to God disconnects you from cycles that once bound you. Each time you surrender, heaven shifts your path slightly closer to promise. Obedience rarely feels comfortable. It often requires letting go of something safe, something familiar. But what feels like loss is actually transition. Every time God asks you to release something, it's because he's making room for something greater. You can't hold on to the past and reach for the promise at the same time. The hands that cling cannot receive. Think of Abraham, called to leave everything familiar and walk toward an invisible promise. His obedience wasn't built on understanding, it was built on faith. That same call rests on you. Chosen one. Heaven is asking you to trust what you cannot trace. To walk even when the path looks uncertain. Your obedience today will make sense later. When the doors you didn't even knock on begin to swing open. You've been standing at thresholds, wondering why nothing seems to move. But maybe heaven is waiting on your yes. The next season of your life is voice-activated. It responds not to fear, but to obedience. The more you align, the more you accelerate. Heaven doesn't need perfection, it needs participation. Obedience is not about perfection, it's about proximity. The more you obey, the closer you feel to God. That's why sometimes the smallest step, an apology, a change, a surrender becomes the biggest breakthrough. You think obedience is about tasks, but it's really about transformation. It's not about doing for God, it's about becoming with God. Chosen one. Stop waiting for a perfect moment. The moment you obey becomes perfect. Every act of obedience is a seed. Some sprout instantly, others take time, but none die. Heaven remembers every yes you've whispered through trembling lips. You've obeyed when no one saw. You've surrendered when no one clapped. And because of that, heaven is preparing to reward you openly for what you did quietly. It may not come the way you expect, but it will come. The doors that have resisted you are not locked. They're waiting for your obedience to fit the key. Trust that God's instructions are never random. When he asks you to forgive, to stay silent, to move, to release, it's always tied to something greater than what you can see. And now, as you sit here, reading these words, maybe your spirit is stirring. Maybe you know exactly what God has been asking of you. Don't ignore that nudge. That is your cue. That is heaven's signal that something is about to break open if you move. If this message resonates with you, if you can feel the truth vibrating through your chest, pause for a moment. Tap the like button as an act of obedience. Not to me, but to heaven's confirmation that you hear his voice. Share this message, not for attention, but so that another wandering soul might find the courage to obey too. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to stay anchored in this stream of faith. Because the words that flow here are not just encouragement, they are reminders from heaven that you are still on the right path. These small actions, done in faith, are not empty gestures. They are spiritual affirmations. You are declaring, I hear you, Lord. I will obey. Heaven sees your agreement, and the ripple will extend far beyond what you imagine. Beloved chosen one, your next door is not locked, it's waiting for your step of faith. Move forward. Even trembling, say yes. Even unsure, and watch as heaven rearranges everything around your obedience. The sound of your yes shakes the gates of fear and unlocks the corridors of destiny. So, go where he leads. Trust the voice that calls you. For obedience is not the end of freedom, it is the beginning of it. Chosen one, God's silence is still speech. When heaven grows quiet, it doesn't mean that God has left, it means he is speaking in a different language. You have mistaken the stillness for absence, but silence is one of his holiest forms of communication. In the noise of blessing, you hear his gifts, but in the silence, you hear his heart. You remember the nights when you begged for answers, when you prayed until your voice broke, when you waited and heard nothing. You thought maybe God was done with you. Maybe you'd missed something. Maybe you'd fallen out of favor. But the truth is this: heaven's silence is not rejection, it is revelation in disguise. When God goes silent, he's not ignoring you, he's building you. You see, when words stop coming from heaven, it's because he wants to see what you will do with what he's already said. Faith is proven in silence. Trust is tested when no fresh instruction comes. Silence is not punishment, it's promotion in process. You are learning to live by faith, not feelings. You are being stretched into maturity. Learning to walk not by sound, but by conviction. The silence trains your spiritual senses to recognize that even when you cannot hear him, he is still near. His stillness does not signal distance, it signals intimacy that no longer needs noise. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 7, "For we live by faith, not by sight." That's what silence requires, faith. Faith that what God said yesterday is still true today. Faith that even when he seems quiet, his hand is still moving. Heaven's silence doesn't mean inactivity. It often means the opposite, that the orchestration is too intricate, the alignment too delicate, for noise to interfere. When a master craftsman is shaping something valuable, he works in silence. You hear no hammering, no shouting, just precision. That's how God works with you. The quiet seasons are when he chisels away everything that doesn't belong, preparing you for the unveiling. The silence of heaven is the sound of perfection being formed. But silence can be the hardest classroom. It makes you question yourself, your path, even your worth. You start to wonder if maybe you imagined everything: the calling, the promise, the dream. You look at the delay and assume it's denial. But chosen one, remember this: God does not change his mind about what he has called. His silence does not erase his promise, it only strengthens the roots of it. The great temptation in silence is to fill it with noise, to move, to force, to act without instruction. But the wise wait. They understand that God speaks loudest to those who refuse to move without his word. You may not hear his voice now, but your obedience in the quiet is writing a testimony that will echo through eternity. Every unanswered prayer is a seed planted beneath the soil of silence. You can't see growth yet, but heaven is watering it from within. The roots are forming before the bloom appears. Silence is not stillness, it's gestation. The miracle is growing where your eyes cannot see. Think of the moments in Scripture when heaven went silent between the Old Testament and the New. For 400 years, not a word was spoken. Yet, in that silence, history was shifting. The Word Himself was preparing to enter the world. Silence, in God's economy, always precedes revelation. So, if heaven feels quiet right now, take heart. It means something extraordinary is in motion. You are in the divine waiting room where heaven writes the next chapter before it releases it. Trust that your Father is not idle. He is aligning people, places, and timings you can't imagine. Don't confuse silence with stillness. And don't confuse stillness with stagnation. Heaven is a symphony of movement even when your ears cannot catch a sound. The plans are still unfolding. The angels are still moving. The promises are still active. You are not forgotten. You are being fine-tuned. Chosen one. Breathe again. Silence is sacred. It's the pause between verses, the rest note that gives music its power. God's voice will return when the lesson is complete. And when it does, it will make sense why it had to be quiet first. Until then, walk faithfully. Keep showing up. Keep praying. Keep trusting. Because even when heaven says nothing, it's saying, I trust you with silence. Chosen one. Grace is chasing you down, even when you run, even when you hide, even when you feel unworthy. Grace finds you. It has never depended on your perfection. It has always depended on His promise. Grace is not a gentle suggestion. It is the relentless pursuit of heaven toward your heart. You have not been abandoned. You have been pursued by love itself. You think sometimes that you've drifted too far, that your mistakes have built walls too high for mercy to climb. But grace doesn't ask permission to enter. It breaks through barriers with divine persistence. Every time you thought it was over, grace whispered, not yet. Every time you disqualified yourself, grace replied, I still choose you. It was proclaimed in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 8. For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God. You cannot earn grace. You can only receive it. That's what makes it so powerful. It belongs to the unworthy. It reaches for you even when you pull away. Grace doesn't need you to be strong. It needs you to be willing. It's not about performance. It's about posture. Think about all the times you fell, and somehow you got back up again. That was grace lifting you when your strength was gone. Think about the doors that opened when you didn't deserve them. The opportunities that came when you had already given up. That was grace. Arranging what your effort couldn't. Grace has been the quiet current beneath your chaos, carrying you forward even when you thought you were drowning. Grace doesn't ignore your failures, it transforms them. It takes the ashes of regret and molds them into testimony. The enemy wants you to believe that your mistakes define you, but heaven says your recovery does. Grace doesn't just forgive, it restores. It brings back color where life went gray. You see, chosen one, grace is not weak, it is wild. It is not a whisper, it is a roar that drowns out condemnation. It's the voice that says, come home. No matter how far you've wandered, grace will find you in the ruins. Take your hand and lead you out gently but firmly. It's not afraid of your mess, it's drawn to it. Maybe you've been running from your past. your pain, even your purpose. But grace is faster. It's behind you, beside you, ahead of you. It's rewriting your story, even as you read these words. The very chapters you thought were too dark are becoming the ones God will use to shine His brightest light. Grace is the reminder that you are not the sum of your failures. You are the result of divine forgiveness. The world may keep a record of your wrongs, but heaven keeps a record of your redemption. You are not who you were, you are who grace is shaping you to become. And maybe right now, you still feel unworthy. That's okay. Grace specializes in meeting the unworthy. It doesn't ask you to clean yourself up before coming. It says, "Come as you are, and I'll do the cleaning." That's why no one can boast. We all stand equal beneath the same mercy. Chosen one. Your story is not beyond repair. Grace doesn't just visit, it dwells. It doesn't fade, it floods. You are being chased not by wrath, but by restoration. Every time you thought you were running from God, you were actually running into His embrace. And this moment, yes, this very one, is proof. You didn't find these words by chance. You were drawn here because grace is calling your name again. Heaven has paused your path to remind you you are still loved, still chosen, still covered. So right now, as a prophetic act of agreement, comment below the number 444. Let it be your sign of restoration, your symbol that grace has found you again. It's more than a number, it's a declaration. When you type it, you are saying, "I am not running anymore. I receive His grace." Heaven recognizes that number as your surrender, your soft yes to the relentless love chasing you down. Don't resist what's already yours. Grace is not an event, it's an atmosphere. It surrounds you, fills you, renews you. It will not stop until every wound becomes a witness. You are living proof that no distance, no failure, no sin is greater than the reach of God's mercy. Chosen one, let grace catch you. Let it heal you. Let it teach you that even your running could not outrun love. The same God who started your story is rewriting the ending with His own hand and in every line. Grace wins. Chosen one. The storm was sent to strengthen you. What tried to break you only revealed what could never be shaken. The thunder, the chaos, the sleepless nights, all of it was training. Heaven did not send the storm to destroy you, but to develop you. The winds that howled against your life were not meant to tear you down, but to test what your foundation was built upon. You see, faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. Anyone can praise when the sky is clear, but only the chosen can worship when lightning strikes. The storm is the place where what you believe becomes more than words. It becomes proof. It's where theories turn into testimonies. You prayed for strength, and God answered with a storm. Because strength is not built in stillness, it's built in struggle. You wanted peace, and He gave you a storm to teach you that peace is not found in the absence of chaos, but in His presence within it. The storm did not come to kill you, it came to crown you. The Apostle Peter once reminded the scattered believers of this truth in his first letter. Chapter 1, verse 7. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. And that's exactly what God has been doing with you, refining, purifying, strengthening. You have walked through fire and come out shining. You have endured loss and discovered that what remained was indestructible. Every gust of wind, every crashing wave, every moment you thought, "I can't survive this," was heaven proving that you could. The storm has a way of clarifying things. It shows you who is real, who stays, who listens, and what truly matters. It strips away distractions and forces you to anchor yourself in something eternal. You learned in that season that people may leave, circumstances may change, but God remains. His voice was the only one that didn't break under pressure. You thought the storm meant God was far away, but he was closer than ever. Sometimes he speaks softly, sometimes he speaks through the roar of the wind. When everything around you was collapsing, his arms were holding the parts of you that could not be seen. You survived not because you were unbreakable, but because you were held. Chosen one. You must understand, storms are never wasted. Every time the sky darkened, heaven was rearranging your atmosphere. The very winds that scared you were blowing away what could not stay. You wanted stability, but God wanted transformation. And transformation often comes wrapped in turbulence. Look back now, not with fear, but with awe. You thought you were drowning, but you were learning to walk on water. You thought you were losing, but you were gaining endurance. You thought you were being buried, but you were being planted. The same rain that flooded your heart also nourished your roots. The storm was both judgment and mercy, destruction and design. You are stronger now, not because life got easier, but because your faith grew louder than your fear. You don't panic as quickly as before. You don't question God as often. You don't crumble at every gust of disappointment. You've learned that storms don't last forever, but what they build in you does. And maybe, even now, another wind is rising. Maybe you feel that familiar pressure again, the uncertainty, the tension, the ache of change. Don't be afraid of it. You've already proven you can survive storms. This one will only take you higher. You've learned to trust the one who commands the wind and the waves. You've seen his power, not just in the calm, but in the chaos. The storms of life are not interruptions, they are invitations. They invite you to deeper faith, deeper surrender, deeper awareness of who God truly is. Every storm carries revelation hidden within its rain, and when it passes, you emerge not just thankful, it transforms you. Remember when Jesus spoke to the storm and said, "Peace, be still." The storm listened, but so did the disciples. Sometimes God doesn't calm the storm right away because he's calming the storm inside you first. The external peace comes only after the internal stillness. You now carry that stillness like armor. The same waves that once terrified you now remind you of his authority. You will face more storms, chosen one, but you will not face them as the same person. You will face them as one who knows how to find peace in the middle of the wind. You will not crumble, you will command. You will not hide, you will stand. Because now you understand that storms do not come to destroy the chosen, they come to reveal them. So, lift your eyes. The clouds are clearing. The light is breaking through, and the air smells like renewal. The storm has passed, but its lessons remain. You have become something unshakable, something eternal, something heaven itself applauds. The storm was never the end of you, it was the making of you. Chosen one, the promise is still alive. It doesn't matter how much time has passed, how many detours you've taken, or how many failures tried to bury it. What God spoke over your life still stands. The word that left his mouth has not expired. Divine promises do not wither with age. They mature with faith. The delays, the silence, the confusion, all of them were preparing the soil for fulfillment. You've looked at your life and wondered if maybe you misunderstood what God said. You've replayed the moments when faith felt simple, when the promise seemed close, when hope felt easy. Then life happened. Circumstances shifted, and suddenly what once felt certain started to look impossible. But impossibility is the exact condition where God performs his greatest work. The promise has not died, it's simply waiting for divine timing, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 19, God is not human, that he should lie, not a human being, that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? That ancient truth still breathes today. When God makes a promise, he binds it to his own nature. For the promise to fail, God himself would have to fail, and he never does. The promise is not dependent on your perfection, your performance, or your pace. It rests entirely on his integrity. Think of Abraham. The years passed, the signs faded, and still the promise waited. God let time stretch long enough for human strength to fail, so that divine power would be unmistakable. The same pattern runs through your story. What feels like delay is heaven, ensuring that no one but God can take credit for what's coming next. You've mistaken waiting for wasting, but nothing is wasted in God's process. Every quiet season, every closed door, every unanswered prayer, each one has been working to mature the promise within you. Sometimes the delay isn't about the promise being ready, it's about you being ready for the promise. The blessing cannot arrive until the vessel is strong enough to hold it. The promise doesn't disappear when circumstances contradict it. In fact, contradiction is confirmation. When everything looks opposite of what God said, that's often the sign that fulfillment is near. Darkness always grows thickest right before dawn. Resistance increases right before release. The enemy's fury is proof that something sacred is about to break forth. Remember, chosen one. The promise was never about what you could accomplish, it's about what God intends to reveal through you. He didn't choose you because you were flawless. He chose you because you were willing. Promises are entrusted, not earned. They are seeds of heaven planted in human soil. And even when you can't see the sprout, life is still happening beneath the surface. It's easy to lose faith when the years drag on. The heart grows tired, the hope grows thin, and doubt whispers, maybe it wasn't for you. But the spirit within you refuses to let go. That flicker of belief that still remains, that's the echo of the promise calling you back to trust. You can feel it, can't you, deep inside? Something still burns. That's not stubborn optimism, that's divine remembrance. Heaven never forgets what it declares. The promise is not sleeping, it's simmering. Every setback has refined it. Every prayer has watered it. Every tear has fertilized it. What seemed dormant has been developing. When God finally unveils it, you'll realize that the years of struggle were not delays, but designs. The pain was not punishment, it was preparation. You've grown stronger, wiser, softer in the right ways. You've learned how to trust without evidence, how to praise without results, how to believe when belief felt foolish. That kind of faith cannot be taught in ease, it's born in endurance. And that endurance has made you ready to carry the very thing you once feared would never come. When the promise unfolds, it will come suddenly without warning, but right on schedule. It will seem as if everything happened overnight. But heaven will know how long it took to prepare you for that moment. You will step into rooms that once felt unreachable. You will see prayers answered in ways more intricate and beautiful than your imagination could have conceived. And when that happens, you will understand why the delay was necessary. You will thank God for every no, every closed door, every season of silence. Because now you will see how perfectly everything aligns, how every thread of waiting wove together to form a masterpiece. Chosen one, lift your eyes again. The promise still breathes. The word spoken over you is not a memory, it's a prophecy in motion. Though it tarried, it did not die. Though it paused, it did not perish. What God has started, He will finish, and you will live to see it. Hold on a little longer. Keep your faith anchored. The promise is not lost, it's alive, and it's on its way to you. Chosen one. It's time to rise, crowned and certain. You've walked through storms, through silence, through seasons that stretched your faith to its breaking point. And yet here you are still standing, still believing, still chosen. Heaven has watched your endurance, your quiet obedience, your persistence in pain. And now the time has come for you to lift your head again. You are not who you were when this began. You are stronger, wiser, deeper. You are ready to wear the crown that suffering forged. This crown is not made of gold, it's made of grace. Every scar is a jewel, every tear a diamond, every prayer a thread of divine light. You have been crowned in private. Soon, you will be recognized in public. What was hidden will now shine. The waiting was your anointing, the wounds were your preparation, as was declared in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, having stood the test. They will receive the promised crown of life. You have stood the test. You didn't quit when it was easier to give up. You didn't curse God when the pain seemed endless. You chose faith when fear felt louder. That kind of endurance doesn't go unnoticed in heaven. The crown you carry isn't a symbol of superiority, it's a testimony of survival. There is something holy about those who refuse to stay down. Heaven loves a fighter whose weapon is faith. You didn't need applause to keep going. You only needed His whisper. And now, you are stepping into a season of divine unveiling. You've passed through fire, and the ashes are falling away. The crown is not coming, it's already upon your head. But this is not the time to grow proud, it's the time to grow purposeful. You were not crowned to sit still, you were crowned to stand tall. You were anointed not just to shine, but to serve. Every victory you've gained carries a responsibility to lift others who are still in the valley you've escaped. You've become the proof that faith works, that grace heals, that obedience still opens doors. Chosen one, rise, straighten your shoulders, stop walking like you're still waiting for approval. Heaven already approved you. You are not walking in uncertainty, you are walking in assignment. The enemy tried to convince you that the battles you faced disqualified you, but they actually identified you. Only the chosen face certain kinds of storms. Only the destined carry certain weights. Now it's time to walk like royalty, not in arrogance, but in authority. You are not above others, but you are no longer beneath your circumstances. You were never called to blend in. You were chosen to stand out, to be a walking reminder of what grace can do. And as you rise, others will notice. They'll ask, "What changed?" Tell them the truth. It wasn't luck. It was love. It wasn't willpower. It was worship. It wasn't coincidence. It was calling. You are where you are because God's hand never left you. Your crown is more than an ornament. It's a mantle. It's heaven's way of saying, "You've endured enough. Now walk in your reward." That doesn't mean the journey is over. It means you've entered a new level of responsibility, of wisdom, of faith. The higher you rise, the gentler your spirit must become. Power without humility is dangerous. But you, chosen one, you have learned humility in the valley, so you can carry authority on the mountain. Now breathe. Look at how far you've come. This is not the end of your story. It's the unveiling of a new chapter. And before you take another step, let's take a moment to do something together. If this word has spoken to your spirit, if you feel heaven reminding you that you are still crowned, still chosen, tap the like button as a silent agreement that you're stepping into this next season with confidence. Share this message with someone who's forgotten who they are. Remind them that they are not broken, they are being built. You never know whose life may be restored because you pressed share. And yes, if you haven't already, subscribe to stay part of this divine journey. This isn't just content, it's a current of heaven, a space where every word you read is meant to rebuild what the world tried to tear down. Staying connected here keeps you surrounded by faith, by truth, by light. Finally, in the comments, write these simple words: "I wear my crown." Write it not just as a phrase, but as a declaration. You are affirming that no past failure, no present fear, no future doubt can strip away what heaven has placed upon you. When you type it, something in the spirit realm shifts, because the moment you identify as crowned, you begin to walk like it. Chosen one, this is your moment. Stand tall, breathe deep, lift your chin. The wilderness is behind you, and the throne room awaits. You are not hoping for victory, you are walking in it. Heaven calls your name, and all creation watches as you rise, crowned and certain, radiant with purpose. Chosen one, your light awakens others. You may not realize it, but every time you choose faith over fear, hope over despair, love over bitterness, you ignite something in the people around you. Your quiet endurance, your unseen prayers, your calm in chaos, they speak louder than sermons. You are living proof that God is still alive and still moving. Your life is a lantern in a dark world. There are those watching you silently, studying how you handle storms, how you carry peace, how you refuse to quit. They see your strength, but they don't know the tears that built it. They see your calm, but they don't hear the cries that preceded it. You are showing them what grace looks like in human form. You are reminding them that light still wins. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That is who you are. You were never meant to blend in. you were designed to shine. The darkness around you is not a sign that you've lost your way. It's the backdrop for your brilliance. Light only proves its power when darkness tries to surround it. That's why your battles have felt personal. The enemy saw your potential long before you did. He knew that once your light awakened, it would awaken others too. But here's the truth. Light doesn't strive to shine, it simply exists. And darkness retreats. You don't have to force your purpose. You only have to remain true to it. Every time you love when it's easier to hate. Every time you forgive when it's tempting to stay bitter. Every time you speak life instead of complaint, you shine. And that radiance changes atmospheres. You may think your influence is small, but heaven measures differently. One act of kindness, one sincere prayer, one word of encouragement ripples through eternity. You are part of heaven's illumination project, a divine conspiracy of light overtaking shadows. One obedient heart at a time. Your smile can heal. Your compassion can soften. Your endurance can inspire. The light you carry is not decorative, it is deliverance. There will always be people drawn to your light and others who are threatened by it. Don't dim yourself to be comfortable for those who prefer the dark. Some will misunderstand your glow, confuse your confidence with arrogance, or question your intentions, but that's because your light reveals what theirs tries to hide. Keep shining anyway. The purpose of your light is not approval, it's awakening. You've been through too much to hide now. Every trial you endured, every tear you cried, every lesson you learned, it all added brightness to your flame. The more you suffered, the purer your light became. Fire refines gold, and trials refine souls. You carry illumination that only comes from intimacy with pain and perseverance through it. That's why others will see peace in you and not understand how it's possible. They won't know it's not peace from the world, it's peace forged in the presence of God. When you walk into rooms, you bring more than your presence, you bring atmosphere. People feel safer, calmer, more hopeful. That is the Spirit of God radiating through you. You carry light that speaks before you say a word. You are the evidence that miracles still happen, that joy still resurrects, that faith still stands after being shaken. There will be days when your own light feels dim. You will question if you still shine, especially when exhaustion hits or when pain lingers. But even then, your flicker is enough. A single candle can pierce a cathedral of darkness. You don't need to be blazing to make a difference. You only need to stay lit. The secret, chosen one, is to stay connected to your source. A lamp cannot shine without oil, and your oil comes from intimacy with God. Every time you worship, every time you pray, every time you surrender your will, the oil flows again. The world may drain you, but heaven refills you. Keep refueling in His presence, because your assignment is too important to burn out. Your light carries healing for others. Somewhere, someone is surviving today because they saw how you endured yours. Your existence is evidence that survival is possible. You are not just shining for yourself. You are a beacon for those who have forgotten their own glow. You are proof that faith doesn't just survive the dark, it transforms it. Chosen one, never underestimate the ripple of your radiance. The world is starving for authenticity, for kindness, for compassion wrapped in truth. Be that, not by striving, but by being. You don't need a stage or spotlight. You already have a sphere of influence, your family. your friends, your community, and every day you show up with grace. You push back the night a little more. Soon, you'll notice people begin to rise beside you. They'll start believing again, forgiving again, living again. That's what your light does. It awakens dormant hope in others. You are a catalyst of renewal, a spark of revival, a living flame of divine intention. Keep shining, chosen one. The world needs your glow. Heaven needs your obedience. And those walking in darkness, they need your light to find their way home. Chosen one. Now the perfect plan unfolds. The pieces that never made sense are aligning. The scattered fragments of your journey are forming a pattern so divine it could only have been drawn by heaven's hand. Every moment, every joy, every sorrow, every delay, every detour was a thread in this tapestry. And now, what once looked like chaos reveals itself as choreography. The plan was never broken. It was always beautiful. You see it now, don't you, the way it all fits together? How what was lost gave birth to what was lasting. How every closed door protected you from the wrong room. How every heartbreak cleared space for healing that would redefine your strength. You realize now that God was never silent. He was strategic. Every pause was a placement. Every setback was sacred redirection. Nothing was wasted. The prophet Isaiah once wrote words that echo through eternity. Chapter 55, verse 9, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." You lived those words. You questioned them once. But now they comfort you. His ways were not just higher, they were wiser, kinder, perfectly measured for who you were becoming. You wanted answers, but he offered transformation instead. And now you understand he wasn't trying to explain his plan. He was inviting you to experience it. Looking back, you can see how everything was orchestrated. The seasons that felt like endings were actually beginnings disguised in mystery. The people who left made room for divine replacements. The moments that broke your heart broke it open so light could enter. You are not who you used to be. And thank God for that. The journey changed you. It stripped away illusions, peeled back layers, and revealed the strength heaven placed in you from the start. Every miracle that seemed delayed was only waiting for the right alignment. Heaven is precise. It doesn't rush, but it never fails. The timing that frustrated you was the same timing that preserved you. If you had received what you prayed for too soon, it would have crushed you. But now, your hands are ready, your heart is steady, and your faith is matured enough to sustain what God is releasing. This is what divine completion feels like, not loud, not frantic, but peaceful. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you believe. The constant striving has been replaced with certainty. You've learned to flow with the rhythm of grace. You've stopped fighting the current and started trusting the tide. You understand now that God's plan doesn't need to make sense, it only needs your surrender. Chosen one. This moment is holy. Heaven has brought you full circle. You are standing in the fulfillment of prayers you once cried for. The clarity you carry now was once confusion. The peace you live in now was once warfare. The strength you wear now was once pain. And through it all, God was weaving. Do you remember the nights you thought you wouldn't make it? The times you whispered, "God, I don't see a way." Those very moments became milestones in the map of your becoming. You didn't realize it then, but every step was forward, even when it felt like failure. He was guiding you through valleys that seemed empty but were filled with hidden provision. Now the plan unfolds like a sunrise, slow, steady, unstoppable. You are watching the light chase away the shadows of yesterday. The promise you almost let go of is breathing again. The door you thought was sealed is opening softly, without struggle, because it was always meant for you. Heaven's fingerprints are everywhere now, on every detail, every connection, every victory. The peace that fills you isn't because everything is perfect, it's because you finally trust the one who is. You no longer need to know the how, because you've met the who. That's the secret of every chosen one, the revelation that faith is not about control, but about communion. The perfect plan of God is not a straight path, it's a spiral, always leading higher, even when it circles through familiar places. Every return to an old lesson is a higher elevation of understanding. You've climbed without realizing it, and now you stand at a height that once terrified you. From here, everything looks different. The pain makes sense. The silence feels sacred, and the waiting seems wise. Chosen one, the story has come full circle. But it is not ending, it is expanding. You are stepping into a new dimension of purpose, where everything you've endured becomes everything you can offer. You are the living proof that God finishes what He starts. The perfect plan unfolds not with noise, but with knowing. You no longer strain to see, you simply believe. The promise was never lost, only latent. And now it blooms right on time. Rest now, not because the journey is over, but because your soul has found alignment. You are walking in divine rhythm. You are exactly where you are meant to be, inside the perfect plan of a flawless God. Chosen one, take a moment, breathe in deeply. You've come all this way, through revelation after revelation, and now you stand in the stillness of completion. This is not just the end of a message, it's the unveiling of a mirror. Every word you've read was a reflection of what heaven already placed inside you: strength, faith, light, and unstoppable purpose. Look how far you've come, from doubt to discernment, from fear to faith, from confusion to clarity. This is what divine transformation looks like: quiet, steady, undeniable. The same hand that guided you through these words is guiding your every step. You are no longer walking as someone searching, you are walking as someone found. Now you understand being chosen was never about being superior, it was about being surrendered. It means allowing yourself to be shaped by God, even when it hurts. Trusting that His plan is perfect even when you cannot see it. You are living proof that grace doesn't just save, it sustains. And as this journey closes, take a moment to do something simple, something meaningful. Tap the like button, not for numbers, but as a symbol of gratitude for every hidden miracle that carried you here. When you share this message, you're not promoting content, you're spreading light. You never know whose spirit might awaken because of your small act of obedience. And in the comments, write these 3 words: I receive peace. Let that declaration mark the end of worry and the beginning of rest, because you are walking now in divine alignment, the place where striving ends and trust begins. If you haven't yet, subscribe, not as a routine click, but as a decision to stay connected to a stream of words that keep you anchored when life feels heavy. This space was created to remind the chosen ones of their worth, their calling, and their crown. So, walk forward, now calm, confident, radiant. The journey doesn't end here, it expands. The same God who spoke through these pages will keep speaking to your heart. You are chosen, you are loved, and you are ready for what comes next.